The war room of the Valoran Dominion was a massive chamber carved from black stone. 7 species sat around the curved table, each one more terrifying than the last. They had scales and claws and teeth that could bite through metal. For 3,000 years, they had ruled half the galaxy. No one had ever said no to them until the humans came. Talvex stood at the center of the room. He was tall and thin, with gray skin that looked like wet leather. His 4 eyes blinked one at a time as he looked at the council members. He was the head of the science division, and today he would show them his greatest work. "My lords," he said, his voice like rocks grinding together, "we have a problem. The humans refuse to join our dominion. They refuse to pay tribute. They refuse to kneel." A low growl came from the Krethian representative. His species looked like bears made of stone, and they were known for eating their enemies alive. "Then we destroy them," he said simply. "We have done this before." Thelvex raised one long finger. "We have tried. We sent a fleet to their border colony. They destroyed it. We sent another. They destroyed that one too. These humans, they fight like nothing we have seen." The room grew quiet. The Dominion had not lost a battle in 800 years. Now they had lost too. "But I have found a solution," Talvex continued. He pressed a button on his control pad, and a hologram appeared above the table. It showed a molecule spinning slowly in the air. The atoms were arranged in a simple pattern, but every alien in the room leaned back from it like it was a living snake. "This is compound VX7, Talvex said proudly. "A neural toxin that targets mammalian biology. It attacks the brain and nervous system. A single drop can kill a Valoran in 4 seconds. For a human, with their weak immune systems, death would be instant." The council members made sounds of approval. This was more like it. This was the kind of solution they understood. "How do we deliver it?" asked the Fenthian ambassador. Her species was covered in feathers, and she had 3 sets of wings folded against her back. "Through their air," Talvex said. "We contaminate their atmospheric processors. They breathe it in. They die. Simple, clean, efficient." He smiled, showing rows of needle-like teeth. "We start with Kepler Station. 50,000 humans live there. It is their largest trading hub. When they all die in a single day, the rest of humanity will understand that resistance is not possible." In the observation gallery above the war room, a human woman sat alone. Her name was Yuna, and she was Earth's ambassador to the Dominion. She had been allowed to watch this meeting as a courtesy. The Valons wanted her to see what was coming. They wanted her to be afraid. Yuna was not afraid. She was confused. She looked at the spinning molecule on the hologram display. She had studied chemistry at Seoul National University many years ago. She had not been the best student, but she remembered enough to recognize basic molecular structures. 2 carbon atoms, 6 hydrogen atoms, 1 oxygen atom, arranged in a very specific pattern. Yuna blinked. She looked again. The molecule was still there, still spinning, still the same. She pulled out her personal communicator and quietly took a picture of the hologram. Then she opened her chemistry reference app and compared the structures. They matched perfectly. Yuna sat back in her chair. For a long moment, she did not move. She did not breathe. Then, very slowly, a smile spread across her face. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of someone who had just realized that their enemies were very, very stupid. She typed a message on her communicator. It was short, just 2 sentences, but it would change everything. "They have weaponized ethanol. Repeat. Their super weapon is alcohol." She sent it to Earth with the highest priority code. Then she sat back and watched the Valorans celebrate their coming victory. Down below, Thelvex was explaining the timeline. The attack would happen in 3 days. The VX-7 was already being manufactured in massive quantities. Tanker ships were being prepared to deliver it to Kepler Station. The humans will never see it coming, he said. They have no defense against this compound. Their bodies cannot process it. One breath, and they will fall. The council members were pleased. They gave Thelvex their approval and their praise. They talked about what they would do with Earth once humanity was gone. The Krethian wanted to strip mine it. The Fenthian wanted to turn it into a nature preserve. They argued about it like children fighting over a toy. None of them noticed that. Una was gone. She walked calmly through the corridors of the Valoran Capitol building. Guards watched her, but they did not stop her. She was a diplomat. She had immunity. And besides, what could one small human woman do against the might of the Dominion? Una smiled to herself as she walked. She was already imagining the looks on their faces when they realized their mistake. She was imagining the confusion, the disbelief, the fear. They had spent decades developing this weapon. They had poured resources and genius into creating the perfect poison. And all they had done was reinvent something humans had been drinking at parties for 10,000 years. Una reached her ship and told the pilot to take her home. She had a lot of work to do. Earth needed to prepare, not for war, but for the most ridiculous diplomatic incident in the history of the galaxy. The Valorans had just tried to kill humanity with beer. Kepler Station hung in the darkness of space like a metal flower. It was huge, big enough to hold 50,000 people. Ships came and went every hour, carrying food and medicine and technology to 100 different worlds. It was the heart of human trade in this part of the galaxy. Commander Tai-Ho stood on the bridge, watching the traffic on his main screen. He was a tall man with short gray hair and tired eyes. He had been running this station for 15 years, and he had seen everything. Pirates, storms, political fights. Nothing surprised him anymore, at least. That was what he thought. The alarm started without warning. Red lights flashed across every console. A voice came over the speakers, calm but urgent. Atmospheric contamination detected. Unknown compound in air processors. All personnel report to emergency stations. Tai-Ho felt his heart stop. Atmospheric contamination was the worst thing that could happen on a space station. If the air went bad, everyone died. There was nowhere to run. Report, he said sharply. What are we dealing with? His crew rushed to their stations. Fingers flew across keyboards. Data filled the screens. Sir, sensors show the compound entered through our main intake vents, said one officer. Someone put it directly into our air supply. It is spreading through the whole station. Tai-Ho gripped the railing in front of him. 50,000 people. Men, women, children. Families who trusted him to keep them safe. How long until full contamination? 20 minutes, sir? Maybe less. Tai-Ho closed his eyes. 20 minutes. Not enough time to evacuate. Not enough time to do anything except pray. Around him, his crew was already writing messages to their families. Some were crying quietly. Others just stared at their screens with empty eyes. They all knew what this meant. Then the door to the medical bay opened, and Jiwan walked in. She was the station's chief medical officer, a small woman with glasses and messy hair. She always looked like she had just woken up from a nap. But Tai-Ho knew she was one of the smartest people on the station. Right now, she looked confused. Not scared, confused. Commander, she said slowly, I finished analyzing the compound. Tai-Ho turned to face her. How bad is it? Jiwan looked down at her datapad. She looked at it for a long time. Then she looked up at Tai-Ho with the strangest expression on her face. Sir, the compound is C2H5OH. Tai-Ho waited. The name meant nothing to him. Ethanol, Jiwan said. They pumped about 40,000 liters of vaporized alcohol into our air supply. The bridge went silent. Everyone stopped what they were doing and turned to look at Jiwon. Alcohol? Taiho repeated. You mean like drinking alcohol? Yes, sir. The exact same thing. If you took this compound and mixed it with water and some flavoring, you could sell it in any bar on Earth. Taiho stared at her. His brain was trying to process what she had just said, but it was not working. It was like someone had told him that the enemy's secret weapon was a puppy, so we are not going to die. No, sir. At this concentration, we might feel a little dizzy. Some people might get headaches. It is basically like standing in a room full of wine fumes. Taiho was quiet for a long moment. Then he started to laugh. It started as a small chuckle, but it grew and grew until he was bent over the railing, tears streaming down his face. His crew watched him with wide eyes. Some of them started laughing too, though they were not sure why. Sir? One officer asked nervously. Are you okay? Taiho wiped his eyes and stood up straight. He was still grinning like a fool. I am fine, he said. I am better than fine. Tell everyone to go back to their normal stations. The emergency is over. He walked over to the environmental controls and started adjusting the ventilation settings. Also, open the main vents to clear the air. It is getting a bit stuffy in here, and I would rather not go to work tipsy. Jiwon laughed and shook her head. Should I prepare the medical bay for anything? Yes, prepare for hangovers. Anyone who was in the lower sections probably got a bigger dose. They are going to wake up tomorrow feeling like they had a very long night. Far away, in the observation room of a Valoran warship, the attack team watched their sensors with growing confusion. They had released enough, VX-7, to kill 100,000 humans. They had expected to see chaos, bodies falling, people screaming, the death of an entire station. Instead, they saw nothing. The humans were walking around normally. Some of them were laughing. One group had gathered in the main plaza and appeared to be singing. What is happening? Demanded the team leader. Why are they not dead? His science officer stared at his instruments, running the same tests over and over again. I do not know, he said. The compound is in their air. They are breathing it. By all our calculations, they should be dying. But they are just standing there. Check the compound again. Maybe something went wrong with the formula. The science officer checked. And checked again. And again. The formula is correct, he said finally. The compound is exactly what it should be. There's no mistake. The team leader slammed his fist against the console. Then, why are they alive? No one had an answer. On Kepler Station, Commander Taiho sent a message to Earth. It was simple and direct. Attack failed. No casualties. Recommend we send the Valorans a thank you note and a bottle of good whiskey. They seem to have confused poison with party supplies. He sent the message and turned to look out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, a group of aliens was probably having a very bad day. Taiho smiled. He almost felt sorry for them. Almost. The news spread through the Valaran Dominion like fire through dry grass. At first, no one believed it. Then came the reports. Then came the videos. Then came the panic. Their ultimate weapon. The compound they had spent 30 years developing was something humans drank for fun. In the capital city of Alarm Prime. The High Council met in emergency session. The mood was very different from their last meeting. No one was celebrating now. No one was talking about dividing up Earth. They were all too busy trying to understand what had gone wrong. Thelvex stood before them again, but this time he was not proud. He was confused and afraid. His 4 eyes kept blinking rapidly, a sign of extreme stress in his species. "We have confirmed the reports," he said quietly. "The humans suffered no deaths. 0. Some of them had minor symptoms, which they call a hangover." Several humans reportedly gathered in the station plaza and began singing drinking songs. The Crethian representative growled deep in his chest. "Drinking songs? What is a drinking song?" "Songs they sing while consuming ethanol," Thelvex explained. "Our intelligence teams have discovered that humans have been drinking this compound for over 10,000 years. They call it alcohol. They have entire industries built around making different versions of it. They hold social events centered on consuming it together." The council chamber fell silent. Every alien in the room was trying to understand what they had just heard. "They drink poison," the Fenthian ambassador said slowly. "On purpose. For entertainment, yes. And they have been doing this for thousands of years. Yes. And they are still alive. Yes." The Fenthian leaned back in her chair and made a sound that might have been a laugh or might have been a scream. No one was sure. What kind of monsters are these humans? She asked. No one had an answer. On Earth, the mood was very different. The news from Kepler Station had arrived 2 days ago, and the initial shock had already turned into something else. Something that looked a lot like amusement. Defense Minister Sujin sat at the head of a long table in the government building in Seoul. Around her were generals and admirals and scientists, the most important military minds on the planet. They had gathered to discuss their response to the Valoran attack. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," Sujin said. "The most powerful empire in the galaxy spent 3 decades and billions of resources to develop a superweapon. And that superweapon is soju. Technically, it is more like pure ethanol," said the chief scientist. "But yes, essentially, they invented very strong vodka." Sujin shook her head slowly. "And they thought this would kill us. They assumed our biology was similar to theirs. For most species in the galaxy, ethanol is deadly even in tiny amounts. A single drop can kill a Valoran in seconds. They had no reason to believe we would be different. So they tried to murder us with alcohol, and we responded by getting a mild buzz." "That is correct, Minister." Sujin was quiet for a moment. Then she started to smile. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of a poker player who had just realized her opponent had shown his cards. "This is an opportunity," she said. "Not for war. For something better." She stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the city of Seoul stretching out beneath her. Millions of people living their lives, completely unaware of the drama happening in the stars above them. "The Valorans are afraid of us now," she continued. "They do not understand us. And when people do not understand something, they fear it. We can use this fear to destroy them, or we can use it to change them. What do you suggest, Minister?" asked one of the generals. Sujin turned back to face the room. "We send them a gift. A diplomatic mission carrying the finest alcoholic drinks from every country on Earth. Wine from France. Whiskey from Scotland. Soju from Korea. Tequila from Mexico. Beer from Germany. Sake from Japan." The room was quiet. Everyone was staring at her like she had lost her mind. "You want to send them alcohol?" asked an admiral. "The thing they just tried to kill us with?" "Yes, let them understand what they are dealing with. Let them see that their greatest weapon is our oldest friend. Let them realize that humans are not like anything they have ever faced before." She walked back to the table and placed both hands on it, leaning forward. "We are not just going to survive this. We are going to make them question everything they think they know about the universe. And we are going to do it by inviting them for drinks." The room was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, the chief scientist started to nod. "It could work," he said. "The psychological impact would be enormous. They would never see us as weak again. They would never see us as normal again, corrected Sujin. And that is exactly what I want. She pressed a button on the table, and a hologram appeared. It showed a sleek diplomatic ship, painted white and gold. "This is the Soul's Pride," she said. "The fastest diplomatic cruiser in our fleet. I want it loaded with alcohol and sent to Valorum Prime within the week. Who will command this mission?" Sujin smiled. "I have someone in mind. Captain Doyen. He served on the border for 10 years. He knows how to handle difficult situations. And more importantly, he knows how to hold his drink." The meeting continued for another hour, working out the details. By the time it ended, Earth had a plan. It was not a plan for war. It was not a plan for surrender. It was a plan for something entirely new. Humanity was going to teach the galaxy how to have a good time. The Soul's Pride dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Valoran system. It was a beautiful ship, long and elegant, built for speed and diplomacy rather than war. On its hull, the flags of every nation on Earth had been painted in a long line. Captain Do-hyun stood on the bridge, looking at the planet ahead of them. Valorum Prime was a dark world, covered in gray clouds and black oceans. It looked unfriendly. It looked dangerous. It looked exactly like the kind of place where people would try to kill you with alcohol. "Any response from the Valorans?" He asked. His communications officer checked the console. "They are hailing us, Captain. They want to know what we are doing here. Tell them we are here to return their gift, and to offer one of our own." There was a pause while the message was sent. Then the response came back. "They are confused, Captain. They say they did not give us any gift." Doyen smiled. "Tell them that 50,000 liters of free alcohol is definitely a gift where we come from. Tell them we want to say thank you in person." Another pause. This one was longer. "They are letting us approach, Captain. But they are warning us that any hostile action will be met with force." "Understood. Take us in slowly. We do not want to scare them." The Soul's Pride moved through the Valoran system like a white ghost. Warships watched it from every direction, their weapons tracking its movement. But no one fired. No one knew what to make of this strange human vessel. 3 hours later, Do-hyun and his team stood in the great hall of the Valoran capital. The room was enormous, designed to make visitors feel small and weak. The ceiling was so high that it disappeared into darkness. The walls were covered with pictures of Valoran conquests, planets burning, species begging for mercy. The High Council sat at the far end of the hall, on a raised platform that made them look down on everyone else. Thelvex was there, along with representatives from all 7 species of the Dominion. They all looked terrified. Do-hyun walked forward with his team. Behind him came Hai-jin, the xenobiologist, carrying a small computer. And behind her came Minsu, the cultural expert, with a wide smile on his face. And behind them came the crates. 20 wooden boxes, each one stamped with the symbol of a different country. Inside were bottles of every kind of alcohol humanity had ever created. "Honored Council," Do-hyun said, bowing slightly. "We received your delivery at Kepler Station. We thought it would be rude not to return the favor." Thelvex leaned forward. His 4 eyes were wide, with something that might have been fear or might have been curiosity. "You received our weapon," he said slowly. "You should be dead. Why are you not dead?" Do-hyun gestured to Hai-jin. She stepped forward and activated her computer. A hologram appeared in the air between the humans and the council, showing the molecular structure of ethanol. "This is what you call compound VX7, Hai-jin explained in her calm, professional voice. "We call it ethanol, or alcohol, or just booze, depending on how formal we are feeling." She pressed another button, and the hologram changed. Now it showed a human liver, spinning slowly in the air. This is a human liver. It evolved over millions of years to do one very specific thing: process toxins, especially ethanol. Our ancestors started drinking alcohol at least 10,000 years ago, maybe longer. By now, our bodies are very, very good at handling it. She showed them more images. Ancient Egyptians brewing beer, Romans drinking wine, Korean farmers making makgeolli, Japanese monks creating sake, Scottish peasants distilling whiskey. Every human culture, on every continent, independently invented alcohol, Hygiene continued. We did not learn it from each other. We all discovered it separately. It is as natural to us as breathing. The council members looked at each other. None of them knew what to say. Du Hyen opened one of the crates and pulled out a bottle. It was amber-colored, and the label read in both English and Korean. "This is bourbon whiskey," he said. "It contains a concentration of ethanol about 40 times stronger than what you released on Kepler Station. We drink it to celebrate victories. We drink it to mourn losses. We drink it because the weather is cold, or because it is hot, or because it is Tuesday." He set the bottle down and pulled out another. "This is soju from Korea. This is tequila from Mexico. This is vodka from Russia. This is wine from France. Every nation on Earth has its own version of your super weapon. We do not fear it. We love it." Minsu stepped forward with a big grin on his face. He was holding a small glass in each hand. "Now comes the fun part," he said. "We did not just come here to show off. We came here to share." He poured soju into the glasses and held them out toward the council. "Who wants to learn how to play drinking games?" The silence in the hall was absolute. Every alien was staring at the small glasses like they contained live explosives. "It is safe," Minsu promised. "We had your scientists analyze the compound first. At this concentration, it will not hurt you. You will just feel relaxed, happy, maybe a little silly." "This is insane," muttered the Krethian representative. "They want us to drink poison." "Not poison," Doyun corrected. "Medicine. In small amounts, alcohol is actually good for some species. It helps with digestion. It reduces stress. It makes social gatherings more enjoyable." He picked up a glass and drank the soju in one smooth motion. Then he smiled at the council. "See? Still alive. Still healthy. And feeling pretty good, actually." The council members looked at each other again. Then, slowly, one of them stood up. It was the Fenthian ambassador, her feathers ruffled with nervous energy. "I will try it," she said. Minsu poured a tiny amount into a glass, barely a few drops. The Fenthian took it carefully, like it might explode in her hands. She brought it to her beak and drank. For a moment, nothing happened. Then her feathers puffed out, and her eyes went wide. "It burns," she said. "But not unpleasantly. It is warm, like sunlight inside my chest." Minsu nodded. "That is normal. Give it a minute. The good part comes next." They waited. The entire hall was silent, watching the Fenthian like she was a scientific experiment. Which, in a way, she was. Then the Fenthian started to giggle. It was a strange sound, high and chirping, like a bird having a very good day. She covered her beak with her wings, embarrassed, but the giggles kept coming. "I feel strange," she said between giggles. "But good strange, light, like I could fly without wings." Minsu grinned. "Welcome to drinking, Ambassador. Now, who else wants to try?" 3 months passed. They were the strangest 3 months in the history of the galaxy. The news of the demonstration spread everywhere. Videos of the Fenthian ambassador giggling after her first drink became the most watched content in Dominion history. Everyone wanted to know more about these strange humans who could survive poison and had turned it into a celebration. Scientists from every species studied the phenomenon. How could any creature evolve to process such a deadly compound? How could they drink it willingly, knowing what it was? The answers they found only raised more questions. Humans, they learned, had survived an ice age by eating almost anything they could find. Humans had lived through plagues that killed half their population. Humans had evolved on a planet where everything, from the weather to the animals to the plants, seemed designed to kill them. And through it all, they had kept drinking. The Treaty of Valorum Prime was signed on a warm afternoon in the capital. The Great Hall was full of representatives from every species in the Dominion, plus a delegation from Earth. The mood was different from before. There was no fear now. There was curiosity and respect, and something that might have been the beginning of friendship. Ambassador Yuna stood at the center of the room. She was wearing a simple blue dress, and she was smiling. It was the same room where she had watched Thelvex present his super weapon. Now she was about to sign a peace treaty. "We did not come to the stars looking for enemies," she said, her voice clear and strong. "We came looking for friends, looking for wonder, looking for new things to discover and new people to meet." She looked around the room, meeting the eyes of every species represented. "You tried to destroy us with our own joy, with something that has brought humans together for 10,000 years. Alcohol has been with us through wars and peace, through sorrow and celebration. It is part of who we are." She picked up the pen and held it over the treaty document. "But we are not angry. We understand. You were afraid of us because we are different, because we do not make sense to you. We forgive you. And more than that, we offer to share what we have." She signed her name in smooth, flowing letters. "Let this be the beginning of something new. Not conquest, not fear, but understanding. And maybe, if we are lucky, some very good parties." The room erupted in sound. Aliens cheered in a dozen different languages. The Fentian ambassador was crying, which apparently meant she was happy. Even Thelvex was making a sound that might have been clapping. Next year changed everything. Valoran scientists developed synthetic compounds that could give their species the feeling of alcohol, without the danger. They called it harmony juice, which the humans thought was adorable. Soon every species in the Dominion had their own version. The first cross-species bar opened on Kepler Station exactly 1 year after the attack. It was called The Hangover, and it had a sign above the door that read, "Where the galaxy comes to forget its problems." Commander Taiho was there for the opening night. He sat at the bar next to a Valoran diplomat who was carefully sipping a glass of harmony juice. The alien's gray skin had taken on a slightly purple color, which meant the drink was working. "Small sips," Taiho advised gently. "Trust me. You will thank me tomorrow." The Valoran nodded slowly. His 4 eyes were having trouble focusing, which made him look confused and happy at the same time. "This feeling," the Valoran said, "it is very strange. Everything seems funny." "Why does everything seem funny?" Taiho smiled. "That is the magic of alcohol. It makes the universe seem less serious, less scary, more like a place where good things can happen." "I understand now," the Valoran said, "why you humans are the way you are. You have been drinking this for thousands of years. It has made you brave. Maybe a little crazy, but brave." "Probably," Taiho agreed. "Though we were already pretty crazy before we invented beer." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the bar fill up with beings from across the galaxy. A Krethian was trying to learn a human drinking game and failing badly. A group of Fenthians were singing what might have been a song, though it sounded more like a flock of very happy birds. Even Thelvex was there, sitting in a corner with Hai-Jin, discussing the science of intoxication. Minsu walked past with a tray of drinks. heading toward a table of mixed species who had apparently become best friends in the last hour. "This is nice," Taiho said quietly. "I never thought I would see anything like this." "Neither did I," said the Valoran. "A year ago, I wanted to kill all of you. Now I am sitting in a bar, drinking fake alcohol, feeling happy for no reason. The universe is very strange." "Yes," Taiho agreed. "Yes, it is." Ambassador Yuna arrived later that night. She walked through the crowded bar, smiling at the chaos around her. This was what she had hoped for. Not just peace, but connection. Not just survival, but celebration. She found a quiet spot near the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, 1,000 different species were learning about each other for the first time. They were sharing meals and telling stories and making mistakes and laughing about them. And it had all started because someone tried to kill humanity with beer. A new saying spread through the galaxy in the years that followed. It was translated into every language, written on walls and taught to children. It became the unofficial motto of the new era of cooperation between species. Never trust a species that can poison. It's sell for pleasure and wake up. The next morning, asking for breakfast. Yuna smiled when she first heard it. It was not elegant. It was not poetic. But it was true. Humans were strange. Humans were impossible. Humans drank poison and laughed about it. And somehow, against all logic, that had made the galaxy a better place. The end.